So nice that the sun is finally shining again in Manchester and it's not dark at 4 p.m. Makes such a difference, especially to work and just working a little bit later and not being too tired. Anyway, this week is the first full week of quarter number 2. And this week I made 2 changes to my business. Number 1, I changed the pricing. And number 2, I changed my call availability. And I did both of these by asking myself one single question. And this question is, I really believe, one of the most beneficial questions you can ask yourself as a business owner, to keep yourself in flow, to keep yourself enjoying what you're doing, and to keep your energy in a good place so you can continue to grow the business and for it to actually feel good the entire time, you know? And that one question is this: what are you tolerating? I ask myself this frequently, at least every quarter. I get to the end of the quarter and I sit down. There's a couple of other questions, but this is a big one that I ask myself. What am I tolerating in life and business right now? What I mean by tolerating is, what are you doing right now because you kind of, you're just kind of pushing through. You kind of feel like you need to do that. Maybe you look in your calendar and you see this stuff coming up and it kind of fills you with that little bit of, oh, I can't be bothered for that. Or maybe you do the thing, whatever that may be, and it drains your energy more than fills your energy, right? Like, there's certain things in my business, most things, I'll do it. Sometimes it feels like work, of course, but so often I'll do it and I actually feel like I get more energy back than it even takes. Group calls are a really, really good example of this. When I run a group call, the masterminds that we do twice a week, and me and the clients are just there chatting, discussing things and stuff like that, I love it. They can tell I love it too. And afterwards, I'm actually filled with energy, which is why one time I had to change the time because it was a little bit too late and I struggled to sleep afterwards. But there's those other things that you're kind of just tolerating, right? And you can really pick these up when you're in the game of business, especially with these coaching and creator businesses, which essentially are made up businesses, right? Like we've got a skill, we've got things that we can offer the world, and we're packaging them up and we're helping people kind of utilize that skill, get coached by us, get supported by us, get taught by us. The rest of it, as long as you're getting results, the rest of it is up to you on how you do it. But so often there's these things, especially like niche to niche, there's these things that we kind of feel we have to do or feel it should be, and they can really suck your energy. So the big question you want to ask yourself is, what am I tolerating? So I'll tell you about the changes that I made and what came up for me when I asked myself this question. So I asked myself that, right? What am I tolerating? What was I tolerating in Q1? And the big one was one-to-one calls. Now, I love these in short bursts. I usually love them during it. I'm in flow, solving problems, creating plans, and loving it. But when there's enough of them in the diary and they're in certain placements, I end up just tolerating it, right? And in Q1, I did something. I signed up a lot of clients and I opened up this higher tier. I opened up the Creators Circle. This was full access to my diary. This was, people could book in. It was obviously a lot more to be able to get this. This was my full-on one-on-one coaching. They get full access to my WhatsApp. They get full access to booking in for calls and things like this. I sold a lot of them. That was easier to sell than I thought, right? I had a lot of clients, a lot of people signed up, and a lot of people were raring to get started on that, and I sold them. And, individually, I love it. But what happened in Q1 is I had a lot of calls in the diary, in different placements, and by the end of Q1, I was tolerating it, like it was something that I was doing and getting through more than being excited for. And many people, they'll just kind of, they'll accept that for a very long time. And eventually they're tolerating a million different things in their business, and they're not really loving their business anymore. And I've seen this hold so many coaches back when growth equals pain, meaning if I grow this business more, which is most of the time what we're trying to do, right? And the problems we're trying to solve is so we can grow the business more. But when it actually equals more pain, like more things that you're not really loving, more things that are taking away from your life rather than adding, I've seen that hold so many people back. It's almost like a psychological thing, right? You don't want to keep pushing if it means more pain. But also, for me, and this is going to be in so many, this isn't going to be unique to me, but like, I noticed that when I had calls, especially if there was a lot of calls, I didn't have the space to do what I needed to do, to be creative, to be high energy, to lead the group, the community, and the program as a whole, and to continue pushing the entire thing, And I also noticed that even just one call in the diary would throw that creativity and that flow off a little bit. I knew that it was coming up, and it would hold me back from being able to really lock in on something and really explore things. Because here's the thing with creativity, and pretty much all of our businesses, if we really want to stand out, are based on creativity in some way, shape, or form. The thing with creativity is it's not a linear relationship. It's not like, you work this much and you get this much out. The thing with creativity is you can work for hours and not achieve much. And then that final hour, everything starts to come together and it just starts to make sense. And then that whole 4 hours before that, if you stopped there, wasn't very useful, becomes way more valuable than just 4 hours with that 5th hour, if you get what I mean. So that's what I noticed. When I asked myself, what am I tolerating? It was that. So what did I change? 2 things, as I've already said. I changed my pricing and I changed my call times. So the pricing is probably the more interesting one. So in coaching and consulting and creative businesses, the general rule of thumb is up your prices, right? Everyone's just like blanket statement for everyone is you need to put your prices up. And I really don't think it's that simple. It depends on the business that you want. And in my case, and the case of my clients, we build a multi-tier offer so we can have the same offer, the same promise, the same process to the same person, but different tiers of access for different levels of proximity and different pricing. So I actually put my price down and up at the same time. I made my prices easier to join because I love frictionless sales. I love, and it's probably happening right now in my email, I'm chatting to someone, right? I love being able to put an offer out there and to make it very easy for someone that's just come into my world, or maybe they haven't just come into my world, but someone that's not paid me anything, to see my offer and like the look of it and join with no sales call, with no convincing, no trying to like sell them on it. And they're just like, this looks good. It's easy to join. I'm in. So I made it easier to join. And then I also made it easier to become a one-on-one client with me and get WhatsApp access, because I like going back and forth with clients on WhatsApp. It's fun. It allows me to get my hands dirty with their business and to know where they're at. But it doesn't take the time and the energy and the creativity away from things like the one-to-one calls does. So I made it easier to join. I also made it easier to get one-on-one access to me on WhatsApp. But then I split these 2 tiers up and I made it harder to get one-on-one calls with me. I made it harder to get one-on-one calls with me, and I made it so that it's very flexible and people can jump up, get one-to-one calls while they need it, while we're working through something. Maybe we're building out an indoctrination funnel or something like that. And then they can very easily drop back down again. So anyone that's jumping up, we can focus on something, we can work on it, and they can drop back down. That's the kind of one-on-one calls that I like, when we're really focused on creating and doing something, and then they can drop down, they can actually pay me more. So I changed around these pricing tiers. I actually lost some money too, right? So there was quite a few people on tiers that now didn't exist. I could have just, let it roll, but that's not what I'm like. So there was certain people that I said, hey, you've paid up front, so you now have one-to-one WhatsApp access to me, even though you haven't paid anywhere near what it should be, because I wanted to make sure that I honored them. And I messaged a couple of other people that was on a tier that now didn't exist and say, hey, your price is now lower, enjoy, or you can do this for one-to-one WhatsApp access. And you know, on a whole, I actually lost a bit of money immediately. But I know long-term, because I'm focusing on my own energy, my own time, what fills me with joy, what fills me with energy, what fills me with inspiration, and what places me in the best place to lead this business as a whole. Although I take a step back in income from my existing clients, I know that designing the business exactly how I want it to run and getting myself in the best place to be the creative leader to continue to push this forwards is going to make me a lot more money in the long run. And I know that because I've ran, you know, offers in the past where I did it, basically built someone else's business because I was learning from them and I was doing exactly what they told me to do. And it didn't grow because I was doing things that I didn't like, and I didn't want to continue doing it, right? So I changed those. Little extra thing, I also changed my call diary as well. Put the calls to, if you're interested, this isn't as interesting, but I put the calls to the morning so I could focus on them when my energy was high, because I have this bad habit of, let's say I have calls starting at like 4 p.m. or 3 p.m. I have this bad habit of like not managing my energy very well. So I'll lock in and I'll work really hard. Then by the time that comes around, I'm pretty tired. This allows me to manage my energy a little bit better. But most importantly, I have 2 group calls every single week. So I made sure to only open up call slots on the call days that I already have the group calls, right? So now, because I've consciously designed this business, how I need it to be for my own self, my own alignment, my own creativity, my own energy, I've got 3 days that are completely free for creativity, for driving things forward, for thinking, for creating for the group as a whole, which helps everyone so much more. Then I've got 2 days designated for coaching, at least 2 mornings designated for one-to-one coaching for the people that are grabbing the one-to-one calls, or for new joiners who I always have a one-to-one call with. So I know I went very deep into like my thought process behind that, because it can often really help people figure it out for themselves. But that's the question for you, is what are you tolerating right now in your business? Especially as we're going into Q2, think about it. Think about what isn't filling you with energy, isn't filling you with joy, and look at, are there any other ways? Even if no one else in the niche is doing this, often it just takes some person, like I said, these businesses are just made up ideas that someone did it one way and then kind of we all start doing it that way, right? Stop thinking that way and start to serve yourself in this. And if you're interested in how we're doing this, and you know, this philosophy of like building an aligned business first, because I've seen it time and time again, just help people get past all of these barriers and really start to grow their business. There's one more thing I'm going to share that I think is super simple, but a huge game changer to how you're actually operating your business. And it's this: constraints, right? Every client that joins the Aligned Creator, I get them thinking about, what are the constraints you want to build this business around? Now, usually we think of constraints as bad things, right? Constraints are holding us back from things. These constraints are consciously designed to constrain your business in, so it doesn't take over your life, and you're building it around the constraints that you've chosen. So a couple of my constraints that I have selected, and these may look like things that can hold me back, and they definitely can, but they can also open up a huge amount of creativity and leverage. A couple of my constraints are, I don't do sales calls, right? So I choose not to do sales calls because I don't like spending my energy convincing people to join. I want them in if they want to be. And I've built the rest of my model and my business around that, so I don't have to do sales calls. I don't want to do more than 10 hours on Zoom coaching per week. So again, I've built my model around that, you know. It got pretty close to that number last quarter. It might have been right up there. But I don't want to be doing more than 10 hours on Zoom coaching a week. So I've set my calendar up so that cannot happen, and I've set my tiers up so there is specific capacity, so that can't happen. I want to build a solo business, right? Me and contractors. I don't want any, long-term people in the business that are continuously there. I might have someone to edit a video or something like that, but no long-term people. I'm trying to think if there's any more off the top of my head. There's definitely a couple more because there's like 5 or 6. Let me just check my phone, 1 second. Not very professional of me, I know, but it's all here. The biggest one here is only working with clients I like. And again, that's dropped the Stripe account a little bit, every now and then. But I only want to work with clients I like. I don't want to work with people that are sucking my energy and we simply don't get on. So there are a couple of my constraints. When we start with constraints, and like I said, all of the clients inside the Aligned Creator, think about this as well. We then build the business around the constraints, because most people do it the other way around. They build their business by any means necessary, right? They're doing whatever they can to build the business, which seems like a noble pursuit. It seems like a good idea, right? But so often they build a business that they feel like they're imprisoned by, and so often they actually build a business that's not based on leverage, that they get stuck in and they can't get further. So the beauty, the hidden beauty around these constraints, and thinking about these constraints first and then building your business around that, the hidden beauty in it is it forces you to find leverage. When I said I don't want to do sales calls, I was forced to find out how to sell without sales calls. When I said I only want to do 10 hours of Zoom a week, and now only ever 2 days of calls per week, it forces me to find ways around that, right? All of this, I've still got my goal of building the business to 50K months, right? So with the clear goal in mind of where we're going and the clear constraints as well, it forces me to be creative, to come up against these constraints, to be creative and to find the leverage that is available to all of us in these businesses to make it work in the way that I want. And again, this is best long-term. This is the best to actually find creative ways around certain problems. And I've seen it time and time again, and I've experienced it myself. When you're building a business that is serving you and serving your life, it's giving you energy, it's giving you excitement, it's aligned to how you want to actually run the business, the life that you want now, doing things that you love with clients that you really, really gel with and you have a good time with, everything else becomes so much easier. It all just starts to flow. And I don't know if you believe in this too, but I really believe that the energy that we vibrate at kind of comes back to us. It puts us on that kind of lifeline. And if you're vibrating at in this like high energy state, because you're always in flow, you're always enjoying what you're doing, you're loving, in the business and outside of the business, you're loving it both, good things tend to happen. You tend to get into this kind of like flow. You ride this wave of good fortune. It's probably a good way to describe it. So 2 questions for you there. Number 1, we're going into Q2. What are you tolerating in your business? What are you tolerating that's not filling you with joy or energy that you don't want anymore? And look at ways to not have that anymore. Even if it looks like taking a step back initially, it will pay off in the long run, because your time and energy in these businesses is the number 1 resource that we have. Number 2, if you want to take it a step further, what are the constraints you want to think about consciously putting in place now? Another one of mine is finishing work by 8 p.m. No, 8 p.m. Every single night. Another one of mine is no client work on the weekends. So again, back to the constraints. What are the things that you can lock in place that you want to build your business around and allows you to start to find the leverage and find the solutions and find the ways around that? So that's it from me. I've been on one of my 3 no-call days today. Been locked in, building out a new cheeky little funnel. See ya.